Today, we're really going deep, diving into the story of Aliko Dangote, Africa's richest man. And with the amount of material you've given us, it's clear you want to get to the bottom of what makes this guy tick. How'd he build this empire? What kind of impact has he actually had? Is he a force for good? Just a really shrewd businessman. Or maybe, and probably likely, a little bit of both.
Well, it's definitely a fascinating story, that's for sure. And, you're right, Dangote's journey, it isn't just about amassing a fortune. It really provides a unique lens, I think, to view Nigeria's economic landscape, the power of strategic thinking, and, yeah, his ambition to kind of reshape how Africa is perceived globally.
So let's start with the basics. Dangote, born in Kano, Nigeria back in 1957 to a well-off family. And get this, his great-grandfather, Alassane Dangote, was basically, I don't know, like the Bill Gates of West Africa at the time, built this incredible trading empire, cola nuts, ground nuts, you name it. Talk about entrepreneurial genius, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Dangote's wealth, it definitely played a part, gave Dangote this early exposure to the world of business. But it wasn't just handed to him, you know. Dangote, he went out and earned a business degree at Al-Azhar University in Cairo. So clearly, the ambition, the drive to kind of carve his own path.
And wow, he really did. I mean, only 21 years old. Borrows money from his uncle, founds the Dangote Group, jumps headfirst into commodities trading. But here's where I think it gets really interesting. He focuses on essential goods, right? Cement, rice, sugar. This wasn't about chasing some, quick profits. This was about locking down markets that would always be in demand.
Exactly. He was playing the long game from the start.
Yeah.
By focusing on essentials, he's not only managing risk, but he's also undercutting competitors who rely on imports. This is a guy who clearly understood the market and had that long-term vision. Like you said, it's like he was playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers.
Yeah, and that strategic thinking, it becomes even more clear when he shifts from just trading to manufacturing, right? He could have kept making a killing as a middleman. But he saw the potential in producing these essential goods within Nigeria itself.
And that's where Dangote Cement comes in. It's more than just a smart business move. This was the total game changer for him.
It really launched him to a whole other level. Right?
Absolutely. And today, Dangote Cement, it's not just a player in Africa. It's the player. We're talking a staggering 40% of the continent's entire cement production capacity.
40%? That's putting your money where your mouth is. But it wasn't enough for him to just stop at cement, right? He takes this same formula and applies it to the sugar industry.
And crushes it, just like with the cement. The Dangote Sugar Refinery, that's not just about dominating the Nigerian market, which, by the way, he does 70% market share, this refinery. It's the biggest in Africa and the third largest in the entire world.
Wow, those are some serious numbers. But from what I'm seeing here, it's bigger than just building massive factories. We're talking diversification on a scale that's almost hard to even comprehend.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. The Dangote Group, it reads like a who's who of industries. Flour, salt, you've got your rice, real estate, banking, transport, heck, even textiles, oil and gas, you name it. He's probably got a stake in it.
So he's not just spreading the wealth, he's spreading his bets across the entire economy. But I have to imagine it's more than just mitigating risk at that point. It seems like he's almost trying to control the narrative, right? Showing the world that Nigeria is a force to be reckoned with.
Oh, absolutely. This is about so much more than just personal gain. It's about elevating Nigeria's industrial capacity, positioning it as a major player in the global market. And I think the most audacious example of this vision, well, that has to be the Dangote refinery.
I mean, this thing is massive, right? It's a real statement project.
Oh, absolutely. It's huge. Commissioned in May of 2023, the Dangote refinery, like we said, largest in Africa. And it's really poised to kind of, shake things up, make Nigeria a major oil exporter.
Yeah, challenging the existing order. It seems like that's kind of a theme with Dangote. But his influence, it goes way beyond just business, right? I mean, we're talking about the political sphere now. It's clear from these articles that he's a power player behind the scenes.
Oh, there's no doubt he's politically active. Major donor to political campaigns, served on economic advisory boards, with multiple administrations.
Yeah, he's definitely got a seat at the table where it counts. Which makes you wonder, how much influence does he really have on Nigeria's economic policy? I mean, is he shaping the future of the country, for better or worse?
It's a good question. And there's no easy answer. It's a double-edged sword. Some people, they argue that, his influence, it's what's driving economic growth, development. Others, they're a little more concerned. Potential conflicts of interest,
Yeah.
The implications of having so much power concentrated in one person.
Definitely a lot to unpack there. But what about his philanthropy? From everything I've read, Dangote seems to be incredibly active when it comes to using his wealth to tackle these social issues.
Yeah, his philanthropy is pretty remarkable, and it's very targeted. He gave a ton of money to fight Ebola, supported victims of Boko Haram, and of course, huge contributions during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Those are some serious commitment. It's like he's trying to use his platform for good, recognizing the responsibility that comes with all that wealth and influence. He's not just hoarding billions of dollars.
No, definitely not. You have to acknowledge that side of him. He's trying to make a difference.
Absolutely. But let's be real, even with all the success, all the good deeds, no one's immune to controversy, right? And Dango, well, he's no exception. There are definitely some shadows mixed in with all those shiny accolades.
Yeah, that's true. His wealth and his political connections, it's drawn a lot of scrutiny, especially when you look at campaign financing. And then there's those allegations of, tax havens.
Right. Can you talk a little bit more about that? What are the specific accusations?
So with the campaign financing, people question the transparency of his donations. Have they influenced any outcomes? And with the tax havens, it all revolves around the potential use of offshore accounts, basically to lower his tax burden.
Which, I mean, it's not always illegal, but it definitely raises some ethical questions, right? Especially for someone in his position.
Yeah, it's kind of the price you pay when you're in the spotlight like that.
And speaking of spotlight, we can't forget about all the awards, the recognition that Dangote has racked up over the years.
Oh yeah, his trophy case must be overflowing by now.
Forbes Africa Person of the Year. Consistently ranked as the most powerful man in Africa. Heck, he was even on Time Magazine's 100 Most Influential People list.
Yeah, there's no denying his impact,
Yeah.
both on the continent and globally. He's become an icon of African entrepreneurship. But, and this is key, his story, it's far from over.
So I guess it all comes back to that question we started with. Is Aliko Dangote a force for good? I mean, he is this incredibly successful businessman, a philanthropist, but there are also these, controversies swirling around him.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag for sure. But I think that's what makes his story so interesting to dig into. It reflects, the complexities of Africa in the 21st century. On one hand, there's no denying his economic impact, the jobs he's created, the industries he's built. He's turned Nigeria into a real industrial powerhouse. And we can't forget about his philanthropic work, addressing these really critical issues head on.
Right. But on the other hand, those concerns about transparency, there's political influence. It makes you wonder if true progress can really happen, with these questions still lingering.
Absolutely. It's the classic dilemma, right? How do you achieve this level of success in this kind of environment without maybe sometimes, operating in some morally gray areas? Tough questions.
Definitely. So where does that leave us? What's Dangote's legacy going to be? Will he be remembered as this, visionary entrepreneur, a generous philanthropist, or will these controversies end up overshadowing all the good he's done?
Only time will tell, I guess. But one thing's for sure, Aliko Dangote's story. It's a perfect example of the potential and the challenges facing Africa today. He embodies both the hopes for the future and the complexities of, the situation on the ground.
Yeah, he's a walking paradox, a symbol of progress, but also a reminder of just how much work still needs to be done. And I think that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating, so important. We've looked at the facts, the figures, we've talked about the controversies, the philanthropy, but ultimately it's up to each of you listening to decide. What do you think about Aliko Dangote? Is he a force for positive change? Or does his story point to a system that's still riddled with contradictions? We want to hear your thoughts, so keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep exploring these stories, keep asking those tough questions, and most importantly, keep diving deep.